Greetings Teslagrad, the Yaximo here, and today I want to talk about the moose. Yeah, that boss fight. The boss fight that causes a lot of frustration during everybody's casual playthrough of the game. And to be fair, speedrunners also have their share of pain during this sequence. At first glance, it's a really chaotic boss fight, but after closer examination, I can assure you that everything in this fight is in your control and there is absolutely no randomness involved, even if at first glance it's really not clear that it's the case. So, let's first explain the basics of the boss fight. This is a moose, and by default the moose always chases Lumina. See, here I blink behind, it follows me, and during the whole fight it will always follow Lumina. It can headbutt Lumina, but that don't do any damage. It just knocks her back and disables her blink. Here you see I tried to blink, you can see my inputs, and I can't really blink, and that's the real danger of the headbutt, because it doesn't do any damage by default, but it can knock you back into the Drogger's arm, and you just cannot escape. So, how do we kill the moose? Well, the Droggers have this property that when they die, it causes an explosion, and you have to hit the moose with this explosion 3 times. So here, I blink through the Drogger again, and now the next time I blink through the Drogger, it will explode. So here it will explode, and hopefully, here the explosion hits the moose, so the moose lost 1 HP. Now the moose is really not happy about it, so its antlers are electrified, and now it causes some damage. See, I just lost my shield. And after chasing me a bit, it will invoke 2 walls of thunder that you need to blink through it. And now the loop repeats. It will invoke Droggers, and I have to hit it with the explosion. During the second phase, the Drogger will be already electrified, so they only need 2 blinks to explode, but they are faster. So here, oh, the explosion nearly missed because, as you could see, the moose stopped before the explosion. So now it hits, so that's okay. And before you ask, no, it's not possible to hit it 2 times during the same phase. So now the moose is again not really happy about it. No thunderwall this time. It's the third phase, and this time the headbutts are lethal, because as you can see, the moose, like this, the antlers are always electrified. So that's the basics of the fight. Now, as you can see, sometimes the moose can avoid the explosion by either stopping before reaching the explosion, or running towards Lumina and so avoiding the explosion. Also the Drogger invocation can seem sometimes a little bit long, sometimes it's quick. It's really chaotic. But surprisingly, let's examine that and figure that there is absolutely no randomness involved. So first let's analyze the movements of the moose. The whole goal of the fight is to manipulate the moose movements, and this movement is entirely dependent on Lumina's position. So, the moose has an invisible bubble around it, like somewhere here. When you are outside of this bubble, the moose will slowly walks towards Lumina, and when you are inside the bubble, it will start running towards Lumina. So, the moose's movement speed is dependent of Lumina's position. So here I am outside the bubble, so it walks. Now I enter the bubble, so it runs. Now I'm inside again, it walks, it runs. And as you can see, it has these little animations. By the way, there is a little glitch when you pause, because it's the default animation, but it has this little animation, it's this little stop when you enter and exit the bubble. So here it's summon Droggers. So here, look at the moose, it walks, it stops, it runs, it's... oops. Have to go here, it turns, Here it stops, it walks, it stops, it runs, it stops, it walks, and that is entirely dependent of Lumina's position. So let's die and retry this. So this means that if you have an explosion nearby, you can juggle these two states like this, see? Enter, exit, and you can stop the moose from moving, prevent the moose from moving. So that's the very first thing you need to know about the moose movement. It's entirely dependent of Lumina's movement. So let's die. Now let's tackle the Draugr invocation. Because that's the whole. Now that we know how to manipulate the moose movement, we need to get ready for when the Draugr are invoked. And this seems, at first glance, very random. But here is how it works. First, there are two fixed spawn points for the Draugr. And they are indicated by these two piles of stones. So there is one here on the left and here one on the right. We can't see it, but we will check it. And the Draugr will always spawn here between those two piles. So there is one here and one right here. There is also some little green light right here to indicate that. So let's wait for the invocation. And as you can see here, one Draugr here and one Draugr that was here, and we can clearly see here the little light that marks the Draugr invocation spawning point. So now, when does the moose invoke the Draugrs? Well, when one phase starts, so when we activate the boss fight, or when the cycle loops, the cycle repeats, there is a 8 seconds timer that starts. And when this timer reaches 0, the Draugr will spawn. So at about 5 or 6 seconds, the moose will scream, will stop and scream, and at 8 seconds, the Draugr will spawn. So right under it, I have a little timer, and I will demonstrate that. So let's activate the boss fight. I started the timer, and let's now check the timing of the Draugr. Screams at 5 seconds, and as you could see, I didn't pause the timer, but as you maybe could see, the Draugr appeared at 8 seconds. And it is always the case. Let's do it again. Let's check that again. 5 seconds it screams, and 8 seconds the Draugr appears. So that's pretty consistent, right? Well, yes, but no. Because look at that. Let's do the exact same thing. So here, I activate the boss fight, and let's wait for the Draugr to spawn. Let's wait. We are already at 8 seconds, no scream, and now the Draugr spawn at 13 seconds. What happened here? It seems pretty consistent at first, but now we have that strange 13 seconds rule that comes seemingly out of nowhere. Well, this is because that 8 seconds timer I mentioned earlier is paused every time the moose is not moving. So, you know that thing with the bubble, that when you enter the invisible bubble of the moose and exit it, the moose has this little animation where it stops moving and do this little lean back or lean frontwards to charge. Well, during this animation, the timer is paused. So for example, let's time again, and I will only do like 1 or 2 animations. So here, start the timer, the moose lean frontwards, so let's keep this animation, and you will see that it will start summoning right now. So yeah, doing these little animations delay the invocation. So let's die. which means that during a speedrun, you don't want to mess with the moose movement to have the best Draugr invocation. So, we've talked about the mouse movement, we've talked about the Draugr invocation. Now let's do the boss fight. Oops, so here I will have a late invocation because the moose lean forward and backwards. You cannot stall the invocation forever. At 13 seconds the Draugr will spawn. So there is a failsafe. Even if you... Oops. I failed my little blink here. So even if you screw up with the moose like this, you try to delay it as much as possible, there is a failsafe that will invoke the Draugr at 13 seconds. After 13 seconds. So here I need the explosion to be closer. Now, see how here I escaped the bubble because the explosion was on the moose, so I quickly went out of the bubble so the moose stopped walking and got hit by the explosion. During the first phase, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but during the second and third phase, the movement speed of the moose when it's walking and running is really fast. So manipulating the moose movement like that is really useful. Also, note that at every time you hit the moose, your shield respawn here. Now, this little wall of thunder, you just need to blink through it. It makes no difference because the moment the moose invokes the wall of thunder, the cycle restarts. So when the wall of thunder appears, what you really need to be careful of is that if you are far from the moose and you blink to avoid the wall of thunder, you really must be careful to not enter the bubble, otherwise you will have that delayed spawn, Draugr spawn again. You know, that's the thing we talked about. So in a speedrun, you really need to be careful of the mouse movement. So here, for example, oops, that was... I wasn't paying attention, sorry, so let's... You can also use the headbutt like this to stop the moose movement. So for example, here this Draugr will explode. So what I want to do is quickly go outside of the moose bubble so it walks slowly and don't avoid the explosion. So here, it was also turning back, so that was okay. Let's do the third phase. As you can see, the movement speed of the moose is really fast right now. So there is a Draugr that will be here. Let's take the hit. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, understanding the moose doesn't mean that you won't die ever, but at least now you know it's entirely your fault. But now let's check a little strat that I implemented in the speedrun. Hopefully I will manage to do it successfully. So here I trigger the team fight, and my goal when this Draugr appear is first to blink inwards to make the move run. So here the moose run, then blink outwards when I can to make the moose walk, and finally blink inwards and take a hit. So this is guaranteed to work. Now I place myself here along this tree, and I will blink backwards so the moose charges me when it's here, blink behind the moose, and so the moose will invoke the wall of thunder when it's here, and that will allow me to go far from the moose and don't have the delayed Draugr spawn, because since the moose will always be here, I will only make it walk towards me, and there is no risk of me entering the bubble if the moose is like at the center of the arena. So let's wait here. blink behind, and now I quickly escape. The wall of thunder comes, but I have the early Draugr spawn. And now I will do a blink inwards to enter the bubble, make the moose run towards me, and same thing, the second blink will kill the Draugr, and I will manage the moose speed with the distance. So here, I blink, make the moose run, and this time I don't escape the bubble because I still wanted the moose to run. I didn't want it to walk, otherwise this explosion would have been avoided. Now, let's do that again. The moose charges me. Oops, I lost my thing. So no wall in the third phase, no wall here. So I went quickly at the right side. And in a speedrun, you want the moose to die at the right side of the arena, because once you get the item that is on the moose, you want to escape quickly, and the exit is on the right. So for this setup, I will blink outwards, so the moose will walk, and then inwards to make the moose run in the explosion. So here and here. That was okay. That was a little bit sloppy. That was not exactly my setup, but I could go behind the moose, and that's pretty much the team fight. The boss fight, sorry. I will probably make a separate video when this speedrun strat will be more refined. It will probably have this little his own video just to showcase that. But that was the basics of all you needed to know about the moose boss fight. You are not guaranteed to never die again, because it's still a very hard boss fight, even if in a speedrun. But at least having this little consistent setup is pretty good, and hopefully will make the boss fight, well, consistent. I hope you've understood everything. If you have any question, feel free to ask. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.